Hi! Today I want to talk about understanding academic sources. So once you've gone onto the MDC databases and you've gathered all of these really great academic journal articles, how do you actually sit down and read it and make sense of it? It's not a type of reading students are often asked to do, and it can be really difficult. So I hope that this video gives you some understanding. The first thing you want to look at is the structure. So we're going to talk about the basic sections of these types of articles. Once you understand the structure, it'll be a lot easier for you to approach this type of reading. So no matter what your topic is, the first thing you want to look at is the abstract. You should be able to see the abstract when you're searching for the article, and it should also be the very first piece of information that you see on the article after you have all the basic like author title stuff. And the purpose of the abstract is to provide a very brief summary of the source. And it's very, very important to read the abstract because the abstract allows you to determine if a particular source is worth reading further. If you read the abstract and it doesn't sound like this article contains information that is useful to you or information that you're looking for, move on immediately. Do not waste any more time. If it does not help you answer some part of your research question, move on. There are always more sources out there. So if the abstract does seem useful, the next part you want to look at is the introduction. And often each of these parts are going to be labeled explicitly, so you can simply hone in on where does it say introduction and start reading. The introduction, like an introduction for a regular essay, offers a broad overview of the article and includes the background of it and the purpose. So how should you use this introduction? You can look at, in context, does this article still seem useful? Is it still a good use of my time? If the answer is yes, continue reading. If the answer is no, again, move on. So depending on the type of article that you're looking at, you're going to see either a section called background or a section called literature review. This is introducing the information that is currently available on the topic. It's providing context for this particular article, and it's any research that the author conducted or read before adding their own voice to the conversation. This can be used to determine if there's any holes in the research that this article is seeking to fill in. What gaps exist and how is this article going to fill that gap? So here's where we diverge a little bit. If you're looking for literary analysis articles versus if you're looking at scientific research. So if you're looking at a literary analysis article, these articles are not going to have a scientific investigation or study. They simply look at a piece of literature and attempt to interpret or analyze that work in a new way. They are not going to have the following sections. If you're looking at a scientific study or some type of actual research or experiment, you are going to see the following sections. You'll see a methods section. So methods section is where the author simply explains the how of their study. How did they actually conduct their study? How many people were involved? Did they give these people a questionnaire? Did they interview the person? Did they set up an experiment? What was the experiment? How exactly did they conduct this research? And this section is useful in determining the validity of the information to see if it's really sound. So what does that all mean? Let's say a group did a study where they looked at 10 participants and they gave these 10 participants a survey. Looking at how many participants they had, 10 is not very many, and looking at the actual survey questions, you can determine, are these questions worded in a biased way? Can I really make generalizations based only on the opinions of 10 people? So if the study seems scientifically valid, then it can be trusted. If you're seeing some issues with it, just keep those issues in mind as you continue your investigation and as you continue your research. Then you're going to see in a scientific article the results section. So after they conduct the experiment via the methods that were discussed, they're going to discuss the results. What did they find? What did they find from this survey of 10 people? This is useful in thinking about the implications. How do these outcomes affect your view on the subject? How do they agree or disagree with other articles that you found on the topic? This is where you really need to think critically. How did these results bring other ideas in? How do they match or not match with the other ideas and readings that I've been doing on this topic? So now, whether you're looking at literary analysis or whether you're looking at a research article, these sections are going to be the same. So after you have all of the methods and your results, every article is going to have a section labeled discussion. This is where the author generalizes or discusses what they found. They discuss the information's place in relationship to their thesis in a literary analysis or their hypothesis in a research article. How did these results prove or disprove this thesis statement? Think of these as like body paragraphs that you would write in your own essay. How do they use the evidence? Does it make sense? How are they presenting their argument? And you know about these sorts of things because, again, you've written academic essays yourself. Then you'll see an section labeled conclusion. The conclusion is, again, something you're familiar with. This is where the author relates the findings or the evidence back to their original research question, and they make a final statement. Sometimes that final statement is where more research is needed. Sometimes it's a takeaway message. Sometimes it's a call to action. How can you use this? Once you read the conclusion, you want to take a pause and go, okay, did I get it? Do I understand where this conclusion is coming from? Does this make logical sense based on what I've read in the article? If the answer is yes, awesome. You got what you needed. If the answer is no, you may want to go back and reread the discussion with the conclusion in mind. So now that we know the purpose of these different sections, how do you actually sit down to read these types of sources? Again, this is a type of reading that is very, very difficult. It's not easy work and it's not something you're often asked to do. So go into it knowing that it's going to take time, it's going to take attention. And that's not just a comment on you, that is for everyone. It's always going to take time and it's going to take a great amount of focus and attention. So you want to read it in a very specific way, okay? An academic journal should not be read in the way that you would read a story, an essay, a poem, even a newspaper article. It's an entirely different beast. Get it? This is the beast from Beauty and the Beast. Okay, anyway. And it also cannot be fully understood on a first reading. You need to expect and plan to read these articles more than one time. I'm going to say that again. Expect and plan to read these articles more than one time. So how do you actually read it? First, you want to read the title. What does the title already tell you? What does it tell you about a thesis statement? What does it tell you about a topic? What does it tell you about a position on the topic? The title is important. Don't skip it. So if I'm looking at a title called A Reader Response Reading of Robert Frost's Home Burial, I know the author is going to discuss a poem by Robert Frost named Home Burial. I know that they're going to discuss it in a reader response context. And I know that this article is going to discuss their findings after performing a reader response analysis of Home Burial by Robert Frost. I got all of that information just from the title. If that information is not useful to my overall question, I move on. Now, you're going to read the abstract. You want to make sure that you read it carefully and ask yourself, what is the purpose of the paper? What topics are going to be under discussion? What does the author claim they're going to do? And then take a look, does this make sense with my research question? If the answer is yes, continue. If the answer is no, move on. Then you want to go through and glance through the headings of each section of the paper. So this could be introduction, this could be methods. Sometimes you'll see other labeled sections, right? What are those headings? How do they relate to the overall topic? And what order of ideas should you expect in this paper? Reading only the headings, we're not even getting to the paragraphs yet, reading only the headings tells you the order that ideas are going to be discussed in. How to read. It's like that old real estate adage, location, location, location. So after you read the title, after you read the abstract, after you glance at the headings, locate and underline the key elements in the abstract that the author is going to discuss. Locate the key elements in those sections that you looked at and write a note to yourself reminding you, what should I be focusing on as I look at this section? Okay, so you're creating a roadmap for yourself of where these major ideas from the abstract are located in the text. You've done a lot of work at this point. Take a break. Grab a snack, grab a cup of coffee, grab a little snacky snack, maybe walk your dog. Take a 15-20 minute break. You've done a lot of work and you deserve it. So after your little break, you want to come back and read the context or background that the author has provided. So we talked about this section earlier. What theoretical approaches are they using? What other ideas are they using? Paraphrase that. Put it into your own words. Pretend like you've got to explain it to an 8-year-old. Okay, if you can explain something to an 8-year-old, that means that you understand it. If you can't explain it to an 8-year-old, do any background research necessary to understand the key concepts. It's totally okay to Google if you don't understand something. Make sure you understand the key concepts needed to understand that background. So then you're going to read the heading of the very first section of the paper. Then you're going to read the first paragraph. Then you're going to read the first sentence of each subsequent paragraph. You're going to take notes on the main ideas. So those first sentences should be the main ideas of each paragraph. Then take a second, looking back at those notes, thinking about what you read. Picture in your mind what argument is the author making here. What are they talking about? What's their main point? Once you know that, read the section fully and focus on the evidence. So you have the argument clear in your mind. Now you can look at the evidence and evaluate. Does this prove the argument or does this not prove the argument? And you repeat in that way. Again, you don't need to do this all at one time. Maybe read 2 sections and then take a break. And then read 2 sections another day and take a break. If you have any figures, illustrations, or graphs, skim them after you skim the section headings. What's the point of it? Why is it there? What is it supposed to illustrate? How does it relate to the overall topic or overall ideas in the abstract? And where is this figure actually discussed in the paper? So again, you want to get this broad overview of why is everything here before you actually start reading. And you're done for now. Make sure you read the article at least once more before deciding how to include it or not. So after you've read the article and you've done all that hard work, which again, do it in small pieces, and again, you will have to do at least twice, you want to think about synthesis. And synthesis is, how do I apply what I've just read to this other information that I have? So after you've read the article at least twice, look back at the main ideas that you wrote down, as well as the evidence that you observed. Write a short summary of the article. If you're writing an annotated bibliography, you're going to have to summarize it anyway. So evaluate the article after that by asking, how do these arguments support the ideas I've already formulated? How do these arguments counter the ideas I've already formulated? And where are the holes in these contrary ideas? What did the author not think about or not take into account? Again, if you're writing an annotated bibliography, this summary and evaluation are going to be key. If you have any questions, of course, you can feel free to email me. And I hope you found this helpful and useful. Bye.